Hey, what's up, everybody? I literally just got home from day one. Actually, it's kind of day 1.5 of the New York Film Festival this year. If you have been following me on the channel, listening to the podcast, and all that, this is the first time that I have been granted press credentials to cover the festival this year. So, of course, I am super excited. If you're curious as to which films are my most anticipated films of the festival, make sure to check out the video I've previously uploaded onto the channel on YouTube that kind of highlights all that. Or if you're listening on podcast format, I did a whole episode where I kind of preview the festival and I say, I let you all know what the films that I am looking forward to the most. The festival for me, and this is going to be like a series of, I guess, vlogs, you could say, that I'll be documenting my time at the festival, kind of just quick reactions and recaps of the films I've seen, some things I've noticed in the festival and all that. But the day for me really started yesterday, Thursday, the 21st. And, I went there because there was only one film that I really wanted to see, and that was All of Us Strangers. That's starring Andrew Scott, Paul Mescal, Jamie Bell, Claire Foy. It was on my list of definitely one of those things that I was really, really curious about. And, but first I had to pick up my badge, my pass. Doing that for the first time, I felt very excited, and I felt, I guess you could kind of say, important, right? Every time you have a chance to do something like what I do and get kind of recognized for being accredited as press at a very prestigious festival like this, it's exciting, and I'm very proud and happy about it. So it felt really, really good to do that. And then what's interesting, and this is something that I wasn't really truly aware of, but it's something that they let you know in advance, where every screening that they have, there's only a certain amount of seats. So there is a queue, there is a line that you have to go on to secure your entrance and your seats. So there aren't assigned seats. There aren't, for every accredited person, there aren't equal amount of seats available at every screening. Obviously, that would be impossible. And especially at New York Film Festival, where they have, I believe, a total of like 3 theaters that do screenings all throughout. This one in particular was screening at what they call the Walter Reed Theater, which is kind of like their main screening theater. Any really important movie, highlighted movie, most anticipated movie is screened in this theater, especially for press. So I noticed, like, when I'm going through my schedule, the majority of the movies I'm checking out are all taking place in this theater. But for me, this was like the last screening that they had for Thursday. So I went in there and I was relatively early. I was like an hour early. I had enough time to go pick up my pass, but there were already people in line. So I have a feeling like a lot of people were like me, really wanting to check out this movie on Thursday and kind of treat this as like their first movie. The festival actually, well, the press screenings themselves actually started on Wednesday, where they added one last minute film to check out on Wednesday. But for the regular schedule, it all started yesterday, right? So this was my only screening, and then it was a weird day, and one of the reasons why I kind of feel tired today is that after the screening, I had to rush downtown to check out this pop-up experience. It's like a cocktail bar experience called For the Continental, being sponsored by Fever and Peacock, which was a lot of fun, and I had a blast. But I was there till like midnight, and I didn't get home till like 1 a.m. And I had to rush over today to make sure that I caught my first film at 1:15 p.m. So needless to say, I'm a little tired. Oh, and if you want to check out how that experience was for me, then definitely stay tuned to the YouTube channel. I'm gonna do like a full recap of that experience and kind of what to expect and all that, if you have a chance to go and what have you. But All of Us Strangers, again, this was a film that caught my eye because Paul Mescal, he has been, ever since After Sun came out, which is a movie I have yet to watch, but ever since that movie came out, he has been kind of talked about as this up and coming actor in the business in Hollywood. There have been rumors floating around that he may be pegged to star in the Fantastic Four movie for Marvel. That's how big this guy has gotten in a very short period of time. So, given that I haven't had a chance to check out After Sun yet, I definitely wanted to check out this movie and see his acting chops, see what he brings to the table. Plus, it stars Claire Foy, who I'm a big fan of. Jamie Bell, I always, have fun and appreciate the movies that he does. Andrew Scott, I'm not that familiar with, but I know he's a very well-known actor and all that. This movie itself was a very interesting. I kind of want to say it's almost like an adult coming of age story. I'll read the quick synopsis here, taken from Letterboxd. One night, screenwriter Adam, in his near-empty tower block in contemporary London, has a chance encounter with his mysterious neighbor Harry that punctures the rhythm of his everyday life. As Adam and Harry get closer, Adam is pulled back to his childhood home, where he discovers that his long-dead parents are both living and look the same age as the day they died over 30 years ago. This description right here is a little misleading. So basically, within the movie itself, Adam, played by Andrew Scott, is already aware of this because it seems normal for him to be visiting his parents that are stuck in a certain time period. And, he has conversations with them, and he kind of comes out of the closet, for them for the first time this way. They're always inquiring about how his life is, how his relationships are, and all that. And then he also finds solace in Paul Mescal's character of Harry, kind of being that nice emotional bond that he has, and kind of wanting to enjoy life with and all that. And I'm going to go into more further details in a fuller review. Again, I'm just utilizing these as kind of quick reactions and all, because obviously I don't want these vlogs to go on for too long. But it's very interesting to see how this character was kind of stuck in a period of time where, because of a tragedy, he was never able to let go of that. And he's always going back and looking for that kind of time that has been lost with his old folks. And, he's confiding in this new person, Harry, in himself. It's because of these experiences, he's allowing himself to finally feel accepted and free of his life, of his, sexuality, and learning really how to be more open and free with himself. And it was a very interesting kind of adult coming of age story that has a lot of supernatural aspects to it. And there's also kind of like that love story in there, with the two. It was a very, very interestingly done movie. I thought the performances all around were great. I can see why Paul Mescal is the actor that a lot of people are talking about. He is just phenomenal. He has a lot of emotion, and he brings a lot to the table. Now, I am dying to really check out After Sun after this, because I definitely want to see what else he's capable of acting-wise. And then later in the festival, there's also going to be another movie he's going to be featured in called Foe, I believe it's called. And I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out. So I thought this was a really good start to the festival for me. I thought this movie was good. If you want to see my final rating of the movie overall, check out my Letterboxd account. You could check out all the stuff that I have there. I have not only my watch list of the festival, but then every time I'll watch a movie, I will record my overall thoughts and feelings, give my rating, and then later on in the channel, I'll do like a full review of the movie once things settle down and I have a chance to do so more so and all that. So yeah, and of course, if you like these vlogs and you want to see more of this stuff, all you got to do, just make sure you just hit the like button for me. Like that would be greatly appreciated and all. But then as we move on to today, I have my handy dandy notebook here where I'm taking notes for the movies I'm seeing. There were 3 movies that I had a chance to check out today, and today I kind of want to dub as the Sandra Hüller day, because there were 2 movies with Sandra Hüller where she starred in these 2 movies. One, it was Anatomy of a Fall, and the other one was The Zone of Interest. And then the kind of intermission in between was a movie that I was so much looking forward to, and that is A Strange Way of Life. That is directed by Pedro Almodovar, starring Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal. So first, let's start off with Anatomy of a Fall. That is directed by Justin Triet, starring Sandra Hüller, as I said. It's a French film. The description here on Letterboxd, Sandra, Samuel, and their visually impaired son, Daniel, have been living in a remote mountain location for the past year. When Samuel is found dead outside the house, an investigation for death in suspicious circumstances is launched. Amidst the uncertainty, Sandra is indicted. Was it suicide or homicide? A year later, Daniel awaits his mother's trial, a true dissection of his parents' relationship. So, one of the reasons why I really wanted to check this movie out is because this was this year's Palme d'Or winner at Cannes Film Festival. Every year, whoever wins that illustrious award, I am always looking forward to checking out. Last year, it was Triangle of Sadness. And Triangle of Sadness ended up becoming, I believe, one of my top 10 movies of the year, if I remember correctly. As you get older, you tend to forget things, but I definitely enjoyed that movie a lot last year, and I thought it was really, really well done. For this year, this movie, Anatomy of a Fall. So certain things that I noticed about this movie is a lot of the main parts that happen in the movie are very chaotic. The whole opening is a very chaotic moment where you have Sandra's character giving an interview. She's a well-known author and writer. Her husband's upstairs doing work on the house, blasting this crazy music. The son is trying to give the dog a bath. Sandra is kind of being playful with the interviewee. Saying like, oh, you had to come all the way out here to interview me and this and that. And, you want to ask me questions, but I want to know more about you. And the music is like blasting and blaring and, it's hard to hear them talking. Very chaotic, right? And then after that whole thing in the beginning, that's when the major incident happens where you see that the husband is now outside, bloodied and presumed dead at this point, because it looks like he had a bad tumble out the window. There's a lot of things about senses in this movie, mainly because it's the son. And I feel like a lot of the parts you experience in the movie are almost through the point of view of the son, because the son is partially blind and utilizes a lot of senses and all that. But it is funny because, as the title dictates, Anatomy of a Fall, it really goes into a lot of the deep insights of the relationship between the 2 characters, the husband and wife, right? Because it is, she is eventually put on trial as, maybe she's the one that killed her husband instead of the husband committing suicide and all that. So by unraveling a lot of this stuff, it very much feels like it is really a story about the couple and their relationships, and just how relationships are in general, how relationships can go from one thing to another, the dynamic between 2 people in a relationship. It almost felt like a marriage story. The movie with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. It's almost like a Marriage Story or Kramer versus Kramer in a way, because the son's involved. But you add an element of murder or death, and then you put, obviously there's a trial involved. So that's why I say Kramer versus Kramer, because it's kind of like trial related. But it was very, very fascinating and interesting. I'm not familiar with how trials are done in France, a French trial, but oh my God, I never want to go on trial in France because it's more based on theatrics in a way, right? Instead of just by the numbers, all right, questions, answers, witnesses, eyewitnesses, and all that. There's a lot of theatrics involved in it. You have um, the attorneys or the whatever quoting stories and poetry and kind of trying to relate things to history, and it was just so like bizarre and it just so intense that I never ever want to myself experience a trial in France at all ever in my life. But it was a very interesting movie. I thought the thing that really hurt it most for me that it felt really long. There were a lot of moments where it felt like it was dragging. It was like dragging a lot. But I think overall, excuse me, the performances were good. Sandra was really really good. But yeah, the length, the dragging moments really really hurt the movie for me. And I don't think it was a strong. If I were to compare it to the Palme d'Or winner from the previous year, which is Triangle of Sadness, I don't think it was as strong as that. Now, of course, I don't know all the other movies that were in contention at Cannes this year. So it's hard for me to judge as to how this one won over the other. But I also found it very interesting that this is the clear winner from France, and learning that France has decided to not put this forth as their Oscar choice for the Oscars next year, and instead they chose another movie, given that this was the Palme d'Or winner from Cannes. So I wonder why that was, and I wonder if it's because maybe they felt that this movie maybe will not gel as much with the voting body as much as the other choice is. Now it's funny, the other movie that it was chosen called The Taste of Things, and it feels more like a cooking movie, like a romance love story based on food and cooking, but it does star Julia Binoche. So I wonder if that has something to do with it, especially since she is a very well-known actress and one that is not a stranger to awards and praises and everything. So yeah, so that's Anatomy of a Fall. Again, quick reaction. I will give a full review again later on the channel at a later date when I have the time and all that. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Make sure to check out the link in the description of this episode or scan the QR code you see on the screen right now and find out how you can get unlimited data for only $15 a month. Save a whole ton of money on your monthly cell phone bill without sacrificing any of the quality. No contracts to worry about, you can cancel anytime, and the transferring process is so easy. You can keep your phone number or get a new one. Need a new phone? They got you covered as well. Over a year ago, I switched from Verizon without any hesitation, and it's not just because I found Ryan Reynolds to be a sexy mother. Shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Mint Mobile, but I guarantee you if you give Mint Mobile a shot, you'll understand why I made that switch, and you too will be a happy Mint Mobile customer. So once again, check out Mint Mobile, link in the description of this episode or QR code on your screen. Check them out. But moving on to the next movie, Strange Way of Life. Again, this was a movie that I was very much looking forward to because when you see the trailer, you know exactly why. Pedro Almodovar, starring Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal. I have not seen any of Pedro's past movies, but I know they're held in high regards to a lot of people. After seeing this movie, now I want to go back into the library of Pedro's and really the filmography, I should say, and really see some of them, because the thing that really stood out to me is that this felt like a Spanish novella. This was like a pure-on soap opera. I guess saying Spanish novella is killing it. It's just saying chai tea. This was a pure-on novella. Something that you would see on, or I would see people watch on maybe Telemundo or what have you. And it was really short. It was a short film. I forget how long it was at this point. But with what we got, And the way it was shot, it was very much just one-on-one between the two for the most part. Most of the movie takes place in a bedroom because it's a conversation that they're having back and forth after they spend the night together, after rekindling their love for X amount of years, 25 years, I believe. The quick synopsis here on Letterboxd is: after 25 years, Silva rides a horse across the desert to visit his friend, Sheriff Jake. They celebrate the meeting, but the next morning, Jake tells him that the reason for his trip is not to go down the memory lane of their friendship. I won't dive into further detail about that until I do my full review, but there is an ulterior motive there that kind of puts both of them at odds against each other. So it's kind of interesting how, they and they give you a quick glimpse as to how kind of the romance started as when they were younger. Him coming into Pedro's character coming back into town, them rekindling their love, spending the night together, and then finding out this conflict, and then putting them two against each other. It felt like a full-on TV drama, which was very, very fascinating. It was purposely cheesy at times, very colorful. The camera angles and the way the directing and kind of like the transitions were done very purposely. I felt like very cheesy-like, very TV-like, very soap opera-like, which I really, really enjoyed and loved. I think for a lot of people, it may have been very disappointing because of how short it was. And how, I'll be honest, after seeing this, I want to see more of this story. I want to see more about, I want to get more from these two characters. I want to be more in this world. And that's what I heard a lot of people mention within the festival. I heard a lot of people just saying that, it was nice to be in this world. I kind of want more of it, right? So I have a feeling that's going to turn off a lot of people when they see this short, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done, and I think the chemistry between Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal was just so good that it makes me want to see more of that. Last but not least, I want to say that's for the festival for me so far is this movie, The Zone of Interest, directed by Jonathan Glazer, who you may know from movies like Under the Skin. And I'm just going to read you quickly the synopsis here on Letterboxd. The commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Hoss, and his wife Hedwig, who's played by Sandra Hüller, strive to build a dream life for their family in a house and garden next to the camp. Now, one thing I like to do, especially at festivals like this, is I like to go into them mostly blind. I didn't read a lot of stuff about this movie. I didn't watch any trailers. All I knew is that it had something to do with Nazis. Now, the way the movie started was, it was very serene. You have a family that is enjoying what appears to be a nice summer day by the lake. Big family, you have the husband and wife, you have their kids. It's like 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. You have what I assume is maybe the grandmother or maybe the nanny, and then you have some other folks with them, and they're just enjoying, the typical stuff that you do in summer by the lake. You're playing, you're swimming, you're doing all that stuff, and then when they're done, they go back home, and they have a lovely home. Really, really lovely. And you don't really notice much of anything until the next day when he is now dressed up in his full Nazi regalia, a uniform and all that. And then you hear gunshots in the background, which you heard like at night when, they were going to bed, and you have the couple. And of course, this takes place a long time ago, so the beds are separate. And they're talking about, kind of reminiscing about the day and oh, it would be so nice if you could take me back to that spa in Italy. When are you going to do so? It would be great. And it's kind of like a couple conversation, a conversation you expect from a couple. But you notice in the background, you hear like kind of like loud noises, some what appears to be screaming and all that. And then you realize more so why the next day when he's in his full-on uniform, Nazi uniform. And then now you start seeing the gates around them. They have like this concrete gating around the house. And then he gets picked up by, a driver, and then you see servants in the striped pajamas that we are accustomed to of people who are in Auschwitz. And then you start seeing like smoke in the background and flames and burning, and you see a lot of the same type of imagery when it's like a day in the life of a Nazi family, right? But it's not glorifying it, but it's making you feel like, oh, they look like a normal family. They look like just, there's love there, and you have the kids who are kids, and you have the wife who is just like tending to the garden with her little daughter. But then you just so happen to hear gunshots or screaming in the background, or just smoke billowing at night, and then you know exactly what's happening there. And it's just all around them. You have all of these horrors and atrocities being done to people around this family that's just trying to live like what looks like a postcard example of a lovely family in a suburban location, right? And it was so eerie and spooky when you finally realize that. Now, of course, as I'm watching this, I'm just writing down like, uh, it's just a lot of like weird things happening where it's like it really is a contrast of beauty and serenity, understanding and knowing that there's all of these bad things happening all around them, and they're just going on through their lives like nothing, like in a very typical Jonathan Glazer way. He does a lot with visual cues and auditory cues and all that. So again, like you'll just see someone standing there, and then you'll just hear the screams and the gunshots and the people chasing men down or what have you. But they don't show it once. They don't show any of the violence or whatever. And it's all just in the background. It's all, you just hear it. And then he takes some liberties of doing some more like interesting camera shots and kind of scenery, where there's one part where and it's never truly fully explained, but I think if you really think about it later on, it makes sense, of this girl at night, and it's like an infrared kind of night vision type of shot where she's like hiding, I believe they're potatoes in the fields or whatever the case is, and then there's this one part where the main character, the guy, is having meetings about new plans for incinerators, and it's supposed to be just like a normal conversation, normal meeting, and all that stuff. You have Sandra's character, who was given a bag full of clothing, and she says, all right, to the help in the house, pick whatever you like, these are not new clothes that we got. And she has like a new fur coat that she's checking out. She goes into the pocket, and it's like, oh, it's a lipstick, oh, this looks good, and all that. And you're realizing and putting two and two together that these are clothing and belongings that belong to the captives and the prisoners of the camp and what have you. It was just so bizarre, but so eerie and spooky, that this was the surprise for me for the festival so far, because I was going into it not knowing what to expect, not really understanding what really this movie was really all about. And now seeing it, oh my God, wow. It is, if you have a stomach for that, then this is an interesting movie for you to check out. For me, this was a pure on horror movie in another sense of horror, because it was just again that contrast, that difference between what we're seeing on screen as what is to be portrayed as normalcy, serenity, beauty, but in the background is a lot of other stuff that's happening. It's just, I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of those talked about and controversial movies of the year, and I'm just so curious as to what a lot of people are going to think about it and all that. So yeah, so that was my day and a half at New York Film Festival. That was it. I'm looking forward to next week for sure. I feel like I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to cut this short here. But yeah, again, make sure you're subscribed and tune into the YouTube channel and the podcast channel through your podcast platform of choice. where you could like follow along and check out the diaries of my time at the festival. Again, for every movie that I am watching, I will dedicate a separate review dedicated to them once I have the time to really sift through everything and just put my thoughts together and give a proper review on each of the films that I check out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you tuned in. I guess lastly, I will say, as far as experience is concerned at the festival so far, it's very interesting to see how many people know each other in the industry and in this field. I am a very new newcomer, so obviously I don't have those relationships yet. But it's very interesting to see kind of like everyone gathered together and talking together and kind of catching up and what have you. I hope to form some friendships and some connections after this. Time will tell. We'll see. I'm a very shy person, believe it or not, so it's hard for me to do that. But the one funny story I will share is that there was one person who was in attendance for a Zone of Interest. From what I heard, he was also in attendance for All of Us Strangers. And I heard a conversation he was having with someone and about his laughter. I guess he was spoken to by several attendees, and I think by some of members of the ones organizing the festival, about professionalism and how his laughter can be seen as obtrusive and disruptive. And I wasn't sure what he meant by that. I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. And he kind of like talks about like he has kind of like this, it's not like really Tourette's, but it's like, it's a reaction and he reacts by laughing. You know, it's just one of those like maybe like a nervous thing or just like a kind of a tick, what have you. And then I heard it during Zone of Interest. Now, grant you, like there were moments where you laugh because of kind of like the absurdity that's happening in the movie, but you hear the laughter, and I'm just like, oh, it's almost like a clown, like a carnival clown laughter, like a Pennywise laughter. And I said, oh, I can see how this could be very disruptive, especially in a movie, All of Us Strangers, that was kind of seemed to be a little bit more serious. It was more of a drama. It wasn't a lot of comedy in there. So I could see how that could be kind of disruptive in an audience, especially a press, quote unquote, professional audience watching a movie. So that is someone that I'm going to be keeping an eye out on as the rest of the festival goes through. So I thought I would share that kind of tidbit with all of you out there. So yeah, so that's my recap, part one of my New York Film Festival diary for 2023. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know the drill by now. And hopefully you're going to be looking forward to further entries of this diary. So until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Catch you all in the next one. All right, peace out, y'all. I'm going to go to bed.